Hello, and we're back. It's been only like 2 days that I've been away. So sorry. I've been, doing life, being busy and all. Trying to make more gains, make more capital. Short of it, I have no more capital now. But either way, we've had a couple different updates on the Pokemon uh releases, I guess. We've gotten some 30th announcements. We've gotten some Rayquaza announcements. Nothing too major, but we're starting to see that summer slump, which is actually quite normal for the hobby, which I'm excited to see. I'm really hoping that we get this soft landing that we desire. I'll go into that hopefully in a future video. But I really wanted to quickly touch on this idea of these small Pokemon sets and why it doesn't matter that Pokemon sets have reduced in the art size. So if we go back, looking at a broader picture of the Pokemon market overall, the Pokemon Company factories, they print X amount of cards. And with this recent release, we have about 10 billion cards being printed per year. And that results in about 8 sets per year. Now, you can argue some sets get printed more, some sets get printed less. Most often, specialty sets get printed more, and the main sets get printed less. Either way, we're going to kind of, for this analysis, we're going to say at least in this main set analysis, we'll go with the main sets are printed relatively similar to one another. And with a lot of these average chases being 1 in 1,000 for a specific SIR. So that means we have a set amount of cards, we have a set amount of sets that these cards are divvied up into with about a average pull rate. So there should be, in theory, an average amount of each card that is printed. Of course, depending on how much is printed of each, yada yada, but we're just going to assume for this story. And those 10 billion cards get sent to these folks on the side, who I guess rip stuff and make content out of it. Kind of these slop channels that are like, you gotta make money to, you gotta spend money to make money or some stuff like that. I don't know what they do, but they're all these small time YouTubers who aren't really too important to the story. So, does this matter? We see this huge shift from the Sword and Shield and SP era to the Mega era, where new Mega sets are coming out with pretty much half the size of the Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet era for the actual card sets. So I wanted to bring up this idea of having two different sets. This scenario of we have two sets that are printed at 1 million boxes each. So they have the same amount of print. The Mega Universe Beyond, my lovely TCG set that is stacked full with tons of IRs, SIRs, you name it, has a huge depth of common cards, 500 total cards in the set. A crazy amount. But it has a 1 in 100 SIR pull rate. So pretty much getting an SIR every 3 booster boxes. Pretty good, pretty good. And so you're able to get these really cool cards in the set. Whereas we have scenario B, where we have about 1 million boxes also printed, but there's only 100 total unique cards in the set. But it's also really hard to get that SIR. So there's a lot of these common junk cards that you're pulling out of each pack, but then all of a sudden, 1 in 1,000, you get this SIR, which is pretty awesome to pull. Which set has the harder pull rates? So in this case, even though the 100 card set has 100 unique cards, Pokemon Company actually makes it a harder pull rate to pull the SIR. So there's a lot more of these junk common. You're pulling bad cards. So think of like kind of an Evolving Sky style. You're pulling a lot of duds, and then all of a sudden you get the 1 in 1,000. It's really good. Whereas Mega Universe Beyond, you're pulling like 1 in every 100. And so you get that dopamine hit a lot easier. So that would be like kind of our Crown Zenith style. Mega Microns would be like our Prismatic style in terms of pull rates. But you can see that even though these card sets have very different amounts of cards in art terms of artwork, the pull rates actually mean that the Mega Micron set is going to be harder to get these cards. And so if we do the math, if we assume that these sets are printed to the same degree, that there's the same amount of cards, but all that matters is the pull rate, because the pull rate is independent of how much is printed and how many unique cards are there, at least if in these calculated scenarios. It means that we're actually going to get 360,000 of a specific SIR in the Mega Universe Beyond, whereas Mega Microns we're going to get about 36,000 of a specific SIR. So it actually means that there is less of them in the world for my lovely nature hedgehog here at the bottom. And we can relate that a bit to some of our older sets where Stellar Crown had a specific SIR rate of 1 in 500. Perfect Order also has a specific SIR pull rate in 1 in 500. So even though Perfect Order is generally a smaller set, we still see that these rare cards, SIRs, are still rare. And you can see that also in some of these other sets. Phantasmal Flames, another good example, 1 in 400 for a specific SIR, whereas Destined Rivals has a 1 in 1,000 specific SIR. So it really just depends on the pull rate of how frequently these cards will be printed, not necessarily on the amount of unique art in a set. So what does this all mean? It means that the small sets don't matter. What really matters is actually the pull rate in these sets and the printed amount of each set. So if you overprint one set and it has a very hard pull rate, eventually you're going to have a high pop card. You're going to have a lot more of it in the market. It tends to then lead to less demand. It's just a simple supply demand. More of the stuff, less of the demand, less monies. So it also depends on the amount printed. And yes, the big one is the demand for the card. So while the Charizard, this lovely, here we go, Phantasmal Charizard, that's 1 in 400. It has a huge demand for the card, so hence the high price. So the supply might be high, but the demand is higher. And so we tend to see that price balloon. While, let's see, this Meowth has a similar pull rate, 1 in 487, but it does not meet to the demand, so we have a lower price point for that Meowth card. So again, what really matters is the pull rates, the print amount, and the demand for the card. And right now we're really in a demand side market. So the amount of supply is does not really matter in the case of a lot of these cards in the pricing calculation. So it just means that the demand is the higher weighted fraction of the determining the price of these cards. Supply does still matter, definitely, but it is largely going to be fluctuated due to the demand. All right, that's all I kind of wanted to give for now. I'll hopefully post some more slop content later on, but I hope this was a bit informative. It's a lot of semantics, but really just honing in that pull rate, print amount, and demand for cards is the driving force of a lot of these prices. So yeah, thanks.